All right, what is up and welcome to episode 12 and a week 7 recap of college football with Kope and Regg. And the first thing I think we're just going to get right into here is the Washington versus Oregon game. One of the games of the year, just like everybody expected. I mean, what was the final? 36-33, I believe.
Yeah.
And Michael Penix, man, front runner for the Heisman, I think. I think that's safe to say at this point. The Washington offense played well. I think the main thing I took away, though, was Oregon did not coach well. Their coaches made a lot of bad decisions. There was a lot of weird, fourth down decisions.
I heard a lot of
decisions.
people saying that.
It was, there was, a couple, third and longs, 3rd and 9, and they'd run the ball. And so everyone's like, all right, they're setting up to go for it on 4th down. And then they'd kick a field goal, or then they'd punt. Or then, so it was just a bunch of weird situations like that. And there's a difference between being risky and just being stupid. And I think they made a lot of dumb decisions. But Washington's offense played really good, and in the end it was good enough to win. And I think you got some more specifics about that game, don't you?
Oregon won. Oregon had more rushing yards. Oregon doubled Washington in rushing yards.
Really?
Oregon had more passing yards. And Oregon had a turnover. In Washington had a turnover. Oregon didn't have a turnover. So I don't really know how Washington completely won this game, but it had to be something to do with the coaching decisions.
Yeah, coaching I think was a big thing. What my main overall summary of the game I thought was Oregon played one of their worst games of the year, I thought, coaching-wise. Offensively and defensively, I thought they played all right. Washington will put up a lot of points, but offensively, Oregon played really good. They put up a lot of yards, I know.
Yeah.
But they just got out-coached big time. And I think Washington had to play their best game of the year to beat Oregon by 3, who had a really bad coaching game. So I think if they meet again, I might take Oregon by 2-3 scores.
I've been more confident in Oregon than Washington this season.
I agree. It's definitely. I think just overall as a team, and I never like the saying the better team didn't win, but I think this could have been one of them cases where if they play again, I would take Oregon.
You were low-key high on Washington at the start of the season.
I was for a while, but the last couple weeks, I don't know.
Yeah, I got you. The stats on this game, Bucky Irving, 22 carries, 127 yards, a touchdown. He had a pretty good game for Oregon. Washington's running back, 20 carries, 100 yards, a touchdown. That just looks kind of clean across the stat line.
Yeah.
Troy Franklin for Oregon, 8 catches, 154 yards, 19 yards per catch, and a touchdown. I think he's a really good receiver. He's very fast and quick. Tez Johnson for Oregon, 7 catches, 71 yards. Rome Odunze, though. Rome Odunze is going to be...
Both these teams have good skill guys, have good groups of skill guys.
I think Rome Odunze is going to be a good wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah.
8 catches, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns in this game.
I think the Pac-12 is reminding me of the Big 12 of a couple years ago right now, with how many good quarterbacks they have and how many good offenses they have. And there's a lot of high-scoring games going on. And Washington's receiving core is loaded. People at the beginning of the year, when they were saying they were maybe just as good, and some people were even saying better than Ohio State's, I was like, there's no way. But they're 100% proving that they're, I think, just as good. And then I think they're better than Texas' group right now, for sure. The stuff that Washington guys are doing and the stats that Penix is putting up.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think anybody's doing it better than the Washington receivers right now statistically. But for the quarterbacks in this game, Bo Nix, 33 for 44, 75%, 2 touchdowns, no picks. So that's why I said Oregon had a good day, really.
Yeah, they did.
Statistically.
Yeah.
Michael Penix, 22 for 37, 59% passing, 302 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception.
Yeah, so overall it was just a big game, and Big 12, like I said earlier, I think the Pac-12 is going to be fun the rest of the year. We'll see if they keep knocking each other out, but as of now, I mean, it's definitely the most fun conference in the country. Now we're going to move into a little bit here. We're going to talk about a big group of games here rather quickly. There was a lot of exciting action in college football this week. I think there were about 18 that I thought were notable games from this week. So we're going to go through these kind of quick. The first one I want to talk about is Pitt and Louisville. Louisville, after the win over Notre Dame, then 1-4 Pitt beats them 38-21. Like, college football is just, it's crazy, man. It's stuff like that every year. And I think now Notre Dame has Pitt next, don't they? Notre Dame has a bye this week and then Pitt, which is just another fun thing with college football. The next game was Arizona and Washington State. Cam Ward and Washington State lose to Arizona 44-6. That's, like, I don't even understand how something like that happens.
I think people need to take a little bit of a deeper look at Arizona.
They have played well this year. I agree.
Need to as well. Because they're really hanging with a lot of good teams at this point. They lost to USC by 2 in a couple overtimes, and then they lost to Washington by 7. Good teams are not great teams, though.
Washington. I mean, they lost to Washington by a touchdown, and then they go and
Washington could be a great team this
exactly.
year.
Yeah,
I'm not sure yet. Though.
Yeah, and they dominate Washington State. So Arizona is looking pretty impressive at this point.
I don't really think you can consider a team to be a great team until the season's over.
Yeah,
honestly.
I agree.
You have no clue what's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. The next game, Air Force and Wyoming, which I was really excited for. Air Force wins 34-27 in the Group of 5 battle, so that was lived up to the hype. John Lee Eldridge III for Air Force with a 58-yard go-ahead touchdown at the end, and Air Force gets the big win.
What position?
Running back. Well, one of them halfbacks in the option. And then so Air Force wins.
Air Force?
What do you mean?
Air Force has the option.
Not all the time. They run everything. Okay. Kind of balanced.
Okay.
But Air Force sits at 6-0, and I mean they're a team that can end up ranked, and they're a team that could end up in a New Year's Six bowl, man, if they keep winning.
That sounds crazy.
Then the next game, and I know Reg, he's probably not excited about this one at all, but the Irish from Notre Dame 48, USC 20, and I'm just gonna let Reg go ahead for a little bit here.
So I was at this game, actually, and that's the reason I can't really talk at the moment.
That's what I was going to ask you, why your voice was going, but I just assumed it was probably because of the game.
Yeah, we were going to record yesterday, but it was even worse yesterday. USC, they kind of finally got exposed against a real team. Notre Dame finally played a game for 4 quarters. That's what I got out of that.
You think Notre Dame's a real team then? I'm just joking.
USC doesn't really have a 3-part team, special teams, offense, and defense, and that kind of showed. Notre Dame put it all together on 3 parts. And I'm just going to get into some stats here. Caleb Williams, worst night of his life.
Literally. That's not even an incorrect statement. That is definitely the worst night of his football life so far.
23 for 37, 199 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions.
The Notre Dame defense, you would have thought they had 12, 13 guys out there. Like,
it was great.
First of all, their pass rush was getting through, and so Williams would throw off his back foot, and then all of a sudden there's like 3 Notre Dame guys around one receiver, and one of them picks it off. Like, it was just felt like a swarm all game.
Caleb Williams was just making throws that he would never make.
And
he said that in his post-game press conference.
It's throws that, like, you don't expect. Like, every time one would happen, I'm just like, no way. Like, there it goes again. Like,
but anytime he's ever made throws like that, it's been in an environment like that.
Yep. Yeah, that's a true point, yeah.
So far in his career, he hasn't really handled away huge atmospheres the best, but it's hard to do that, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what a lot of people were being hard on Lincoln Riley for that too, saying how he can't win big games and whatnot, which that might be true. I mean, he could finish 9-3, 10-2 every year, but if he always loses the bowl game or always loses a couple big games, he's never going to take that next step.
Yeah, Notre Dame sacked Caleb Williams 6 times and had 11 tackles for loss in this game. I'm not really sure what USC did, but it doesn't really matter. Aldrich Estime in this game. They finally gave him the ball more than 20 times. He had 22 carries, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns. And this is what you can get. I think this is what you can get out of him consistently. And even more in against worse opponents, I would say.
Yeah, and I was going to say, it wasn't a load of yards, but also you got to think of how many times Notre Dame was starting at like the 20-yard line going in because of an interception or something.
And we haven't really proved to be the biggest passing threat at this point.
Not this year.
Sam Hartman, 13 for 20, 126 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks.
See, so it wasn't a big sample size on offense, but it was efficient, and they did the job when they needed to, and they ended up with 48 points on the board. Like,
our defense won the game for us 100%. Defense and special teams did it. And that's kind of how the game was. If anyone remembers Clemson last year, when Clemson came into Notre Dame, we beat them 35-14. And that was when Benjamin Morrison had the pick six, like 99 yards.
Yeah, that's what someone was saying.
He had 2 or 3 picks in that game, actually.
During the game, I remember scrolling through Instagram, and someone was saying, this is just like Clemson last year. Like, that's what they were excited about.
So USC has more total yards in this game, more first downs, and more time of possession. But that's because Notre Dame's defense just kept forcing them onto the field, really.
Yeah.
With the turnovers. USC has 5 turnovers. Notre Dame doesn't have any. And that's
5 turnovers.
You can't really win with 5 turnovers unless the other team has 5 turnovers.
You can't in a game like that.
A guy I want to shout out, and this is also my defensive player of the week this week, Xavier Watts. He was playing the guy that would mirror Caleb Williams a lot, and then he also played pass coverage. He had 2 picks in this game. And 2 picks in the first half, and then he had a forced fumble, and then he also picked up a different fumble and scored a touchdown on that. So that's any guy's defensive dream day right there, especially against your rival. One of the biggest rivalries of all time.
He was just a part of that swarm that was just all over him. I mean, he's just everywhere.
And if you didn't know, this guy's a converted wide receiver. He converted the safety from wide receiver this past year.
That's a cool little fact.
That's all I really got for this game. Chris Tyree had a huge long touchdown, 48 yards, I think. That was huge.
Who had the kick return?
That's what I was about to say. Jadarian Price.
Yeah, Price. That's what it was.
99-yard kick return. It was 31-20 at this point. USC, Zachariah Branch just had a punt return for, I think, like 80 yards.
That guy is so fast. It's crazy.
I don't know why we kicked it to him.
I know. I said it right
we kicked it to him every time.
I was like, why? Right to him.
But he returned it, and that's pretty much what got USC a touchdown. Then it was 31-20. USC had a little momentum. But then the first kick after that return, Jadarian Price, 94 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was one of the moments where it was like, yeah, this is just one of them days. It's not USC's day. It's Notre Dame's going to probably win it.
I've never been to a more electric atmosphere and a more a fun game to be at.
Yeah,
honestly.
that had to be sweet.
Especially as a Notre Dame fan.
Yeah. I think that's all we got for that one. We're going to keep moving on here. The next game we're going to talk about, North Carolina, number 12 at the time, beat number 25 Miami, 41-31. Drake May and North Carolina keep it rolling. They're 6-0. I think Reg has a couple details about this one.
So Miami goes to North Carolina. Both teams made plays in this game, but I think North Carolina made less mistakes, and that's why they won this game. Devontae Walker finally gets to show what he actually is, and he lives up to the hype. He's been a really good receiver, or he was a really good receiver in this game.
How many touchdowns did he have?
Devontae Walker.
I think 3 touchdowns in this one.
Devontae Walker had 8 catches, 151 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
He finally got a show, and I think it's kind of shitty that this dude he could be the leading receiver in the whole nation.
Literally, right now he could.
You never know, especially if he does a game like that in the first game he comes back. North Carolina run game, along with their turnovers that they forced, won the game for them. North Carolina has shown that they're a running team for real.
Big time this year. Big time. That running back has had a big year.
And that gets to my offensive player of the week, I guess. I don't even have to save it for the section.
Literally.
Amari and Hampton, 24 carries, 197 yards, and 1 touchdown. And then he also had a receiving touchdown but he only had 20 yards. 8.2 yards per carry against a Miami defense that has stopped the run to this point.
Yes, they have. That's big-time stuff. A&M, I remember, had like 20 rushing yards, I feel like.
Yeah, Miami was only giving up, I think it was in the 90s in rushing yards per game. North Carolina didn't look like I remember when we previewed this last week, North Carolina didn't really look like the team to pick statistically, but I still picked them. Miami was better offensively, better defensively. And they had the schedule even, too.
It was one of those things where if Miami didn't have that bad loss with Georgia Tech, they may have been a top 10 team,
and
top 15
they'd probably
for
be
this week.
favored in this game.
Literally.
Yeah.
And it turned into where North Carolina had some momentum going into it with Tez Walker, and they definitely took advantage.
North Carolina, they're undefeated with a manageable schedule ahead of them. Next week they have Virginia at home. Then they go to Georgia Tech. Then they play Campbell at home.
I'm hearing 9-0 so far.
And then we have Duke at home. That could be their first potential loss there.
Imagine, that's crazy. It's going to be a big-time Duke, North Carolina football game. It's always the basketball game. Yeah, that's going to be fun. Wait, where's it at?
It's at home, North Carolina.
At North Carolina, yeah, that's going to be fun.
And then after that, the week after, they go to Clemson.
Another big one. There we go.
So that's a good back-to-back there. And then at NC State to finish it.
So a solid 3 to end it. Yeah, a couple rivalry games. That's definitely a situation where they end up 12-0 and play Florida State in the end.
The ACC is still up in the air at this point between North Carolina, Florida State, Louisville, and Duke.
Yeah, Louisville and Duke are both still in it.
And the quarterbacks in this game, Tyler Van Dyke had a decent game, but he threw 2 interceptions, which lost him the game, really. 31 for 48, 391 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Drake May, 17 for 33, so not great on the percentage. 273 yards and 4 touchdowns, so still a decent day for Drake May. And that's pretty much all I have for this game. And North Carolina looks to be a potential playoff team.
Yes, they do. They're top 10 right now, I believe. In my latest rankings right now, I think I have them at 9, so they're right in the mix, man. They can make a push with Mac Brown, a head coach, too. You never know.
Oh, yeah.
The next game then this week that I felt was noteworthy, Missouri played Kentucky. Kentucky was ranked 24 and Missouri wasn't ranked. Missouri wins 38-21, so a couple rough weeks for Kentucky. And Missouri now definitely, they're sitting at 6-1, which I know they have a tough schedule down the stretch, and I know you talked about that last week, I think. But we'll see what Missouri can do the rest of the year.
Well, Kentucky, I can understand why Kentucky's players could be a little unmotivated.
Well,
after
no kidding.
What their coach said last week.
No kidding. I agree. That's exactly what we said. It's going to be hard to bounce back after your coach says that.
Also, I really like Missouri this year.
I agree. Their
fun
to watch.
Is fun. Yeah, I was about to say fun to watch.
38 points against a good Kentucky defense. So that was a good week for Missouri. Another game that was noteworthy, 15 Oregon State beats 18 UCLA, 36-24. I think DJU played well in this one, but overall, as the Beavers' defense played well again, and they're sitting at 6-1 too. The Washington State loss is not looking very good anymore, but they've had a couple solid wins over Utah and UCLA now. And Oregon State is a team where in a rivalry game with Oregon, they can be dangerous, and they beat Washington at some point, and all of a sudden Oregon State could be a playoff
I think
team.
it's going to happen.
You think so?
No, what I think is going to happen is the Pac-12 is going to beat itself up and
my
take themselves out of the playoffs.
My prediction was Utah is going to wreck everything now. They're going to beat like Washington and Oregon.
Somebody's going to do it.
Somebody's going to do the wrecking, yeah.
Could be Arizona.
It literally, they're getting hot now mid-season. It definitely could be.
Maybe Colorado swipes a game from somebody.
Literally. There's all kinds of things that can happen. Washington State could still beat anyone with Cam Ward. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a fun ending to the year for the Pac-12.
There's a lot of hungry teams and not a lot of food over there.
Yeah, exactly. And then another game in the college football this week, Colorado State beats Boise State 31-30 on a Hail Mary last second. We had 2 Hail Marys this week, and Colorado State got one over Boise State. I mean, you can't really get much better than a last-second Hail Mary. Colorado State has kind of had an up-and-down season. They're sitting at 3-3 right now, I believe. They had the crazy loss to Colorado earlier this year, but that was a big win for them. And then that leads me into Houston beats West Virginia 41-39 on a last-second Hail Mary. So we had 2 of them this week. I believe this one was on Thursday night.
Oh, I seen him clowning on Pat McAfee for that on game day.
Really?
Yeah,
That's funny. West Virginia was getting hot, I thought, too. I had them moving up in my rankings and stuff, and then they take a tough loss to Houston this week. Houston's been up and down. They've been a little inconsistent, but they're 3-3 right now.
This is kind of random, but you know what name pops into my head when I think of last-second Hail Mary? Mangum.
Really? That is. I wouldn't think of that
BYU.
one. BYU.
That one year he had
there was
have 2 of
multiple,
them?
at least
I think it was 2 or 3.
Because I remember the second one when he throws it, the announcer yells, "We've seen this before," and then he hits it again, and that was crazy. College football mayhem this week. 2 Hail Marys. Another game. This one, I'm not gonna lie, kind of made me happy. Stanford comes back from 29-0 down at the half and beats Colorado 46-43. Colorado just made too many mistakes, and they're just too undisciplined right now, which Deion talked about that. Everybody talked about that. And it's one of those things, they still do have 4 wins this year. They had 1 last year. Now they're going to have to fight for a bowl game, though, I think. I mean,
definitely.
If you look at their schedule, who they have down the line, they're going to have to fight to finish 6-6 and get to a bowl game. But, I mean, credit to Stanford, man, coming back from 29-0 down. And I'm going to talk about one of their receivers later who had a really big game.
Hopefully Colorado can take this and learn a little bit of a lesson from it.
That's what I think. It's a big wake-up call for them.
Definitely.
It's a good moment for them to realize we do have some things to work on.
They can realize you can't win a game in 2 quarters.
Yeah, exactly. Because they were going in a half all smiling, all happy, and then just like that, it was flipped. Another one this week that was just another example of Arkansas just coming up just short. They lose to Alabama 24-21. And if you look at Arkansas's schedule, they are 2-5 now, 5 losses in a row. They have lost by 7, 3, 12, 7, and 3. Just coming up just short over and over.
It sounds like
over
Oklahoma
again.
last year.
And they're doing it against good teams too. LSU, Ole Miss, and Bama in there. A&M's in there. It's just you can't come up you can't come up any closer. And they just consistently fall short. Bama gets the win 24-21. Another Bama win, man. They keep rolling. They're 6-1 now, and I think they just keep creeping their way up to a potential playoff spot. Michigan State led Rutgers at one point 24-6. Rutgers comes back to win 27-24. Rutgers is now 5-2. Michigan State might be the worst team in the Big Ten this year.
That's crazy.
And it is crazy. Just a couple years ago, not a couple 6, 7 years ago now, they were one of the top teams every year. They were a dangerous team.
Mel Tucker burnt the program.
He did not leave anything good behind right now. They're sitting at 2-4 on the year. Bad loss to Rutgers, and I mean, there's just not much more you can say.
I think
Michigan
eventually
State
somebody
right
will
now.
come and fix Michigan State, but at the point it's at right now, it's not looking great.
Did you see the Urban Meyer rumors at one point? That was funny.
I don't know why that would ever happen.
Yeah, that wasn't realistic, I don't think, but it was funny when it was. This next game then, big SEC game this week, and I think it was pretty shocking to me because I even remember saying before this week, over under 75, I think I left on a comment section or something. Tennessee beats A&M 20-13 with a lot of good defense, and I think they ran the ball well, and I think Reg has some details about this one.
Yeah, I heard people actually, I heard one podcast, they said, that I was listening to, they were trying to tell people to bet the under, actually.
Really? See, that was surprising to me.
They must have had some insider information.
Yeah.
No, I think they're paying more attention on what Tennessee has really been this year.
Yeah, they definitely just know more in detail.
Because if you haven't I don't think too many people besides Tennessee fans have been really closely looking at Tennessee this year.
Not at Tennessee.
But Tennessee in this game, they ran the ball 49 times for 232 yards against like I said, I've said it in almost every podcast, the most talented defensive line in the country, Texas A&M.
Front seven is good.
And Tennessee, you would think, people think about them last year with
Hendon Hooker.
With Hendon
Hendon
Hooker
throwing
and
it to Hyatt.
Yeah. They were air raid, shootout, outscore everybody. But this year, they were run the ball and play defense. They only threw the ball 22 times with Joe Milton.
Overrated.
He went 11 for 22, 100 yards, a touchdown, and a pick.
Just the offseason hype was wild, man. I got.
He's overrated, but I'm not.
I said it all offseason. It's just
overrated by. I hate that the media puts all this pressure on dudes.
And yeah, it's not really his fault, man.
That's what I'm saying.
He throws the ball 75 yards and everybody goes crazy.
Yeah, I don't want to hate on the because he just has an
arm.
arm.
I'm not trying to hate on him specifically. I'm hating on everyone else that thought he was going to be good. And there's no way.
People need to realize that a guy throwing in a 7-on-7 or just straight up throwing a streak to a guy in a practice facility without pads that does not correlate to the game at all.
The game of football is completely different than standing there in a t-shirt and launching a ball, which he's got a strong arm. That's his probably his strongest point as a quarterback, but it just hasn't translated quite yet to the game, or he hasn't quite figured out how to use it efficiently in the game.
Yeah, definitely. Texas A&M was completely shut down on offense in this game. Texas A&M ran the ball 28 times for 54 yards. They went 16 for 34 passing, 222 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 picks for Max Johnson.
I saw a lot of hype around the Tennessee defense after this game. They said they were played very good.
Tennessee on the ground, Jalen Wright, a name that he's been doing good these past 2 weeks. He had a good game last week. 19 carries, 136 yards, 7.2 yards per carry. Texas A&M D-line did not control the line of scrimmage like people thought they would, and Tennessee kind of just controlled the game here. And the one more thing I got to mention about this game is Jimbo Fisher. Are they ready to get rid of him?
Yeah, I think he's going to get the rest of this year at least, but this will be the last year in my opinion. I think this will be it. What did you say earlier? 5-7 probably, and call it a year or call it a career at A&M for Jimbo.
The year that he went 5-7. I would have
after that year. I thought you thought he was going to go 5-7 this year. I think I see.
I mean, I don't know 100% about that honestly, because if you look at that year, they won a lot of they lost a lot of one possession games. So
you just can't keep underperforming that heavily with the talent he's got.
This is the year that they actually do have all the pieces.
The loaded, full roster, full, complete, good, 100%.
And he's still not putting it together.
Not one bit. The next game then we're going to get into is Oklahoma State beats Kansas 39-32. A little high-scoring game in the Big 12. And Oklahoma State lost to South Alabama this year, and I think everybody just kind of counted them out. But they're 4-2 now. They're moving up. They're playing well as of late. And that win over Kansas is a good one. And Kansas, that's just disappointing for them. They were 5-1, and to take a loss like that at this point in the season isn't good for them. After that, Illinois beat Maryland 27-24. Maryland, man, they were 5-0, and then they lose to Ohio State last week, and then they take a loss to 2-4 Illinois. Just a rough couple of weeks for them. I think a lot of people were saying after you lose a game like that to Ohio State where they thought they were on the come up, it's hard to bounce back after a loss like that. Like mentally, they were probably pretty shot. Then this next game was pretty exciting. SEC battle. Florida, who's now 5-2, they're sneaking up, man, right now. They're sitting at 5-2. They beat South Carolina 41-39. They just escaped Rattler. That was a good game offensively. Graham Mertz has been playing well this year. I saw something earlier.
I was looking at him to maybe put him as my offensive player of the week.
I saw him earlier. He's got better stats than Jordan Travis right now at Florida State. And that's not something many people would expect, and I think that's something people need to know because he is playing well, and Jordan Travis is just not playing as well as people think.
Florida, I think, after the first few weeks, I don't think people would have people were talking about, is Florida going to make a bowl?
Oh, yeah, I was counting them out early this year.
But now, I think they're pretty much a lock to make a bowl at this point. They'll definitely win another game.
They got 5 wins now, yeah. The last game, then, I've talked about it in the last podcast, one of my favorite games every year, man, and it lived up to exactly what I wanted. Iowa beats Wisconsin 15-6. There were about 72 total runs in this game. Iowa ran the ball 48 times. their quarterback was 6 for 14 for 37 yards, and they won the game. Like, that's just classic Big Ten stuff right there. And this rivalry goes to Iowa this year. And now Iowa is in prime position to win the West. I mean, they went out now, at least win the games that they need to against the West teams. And they are in the Big Ten championship playing one of the big three from the East, which you never know what Iowa can do with that defense. So we'll see what Iowa does the rest of the year, and that's a tough loss for Wisconsin.
That's like a street fight with two shields.
Yep, big time. And you just got to break down the other guy's shield, and Wisconsin's was just a little bit weaker in this one. I think, did you talk about your 2 players of the week already?
I'll mention it again.
Yeah, you can mention them again.
My 2 players of the week were Amari and Hampton, North Carolina's running back, 24 carries, 197 yards, 8.2 yards per carry, a touchdown on the ground, and a touchdown receiving, 20 yards receiving on 2 catches in their win against Miami. On defense, Xavier Watts from Notre Dame. He just had a crazy game. He was in the right spot at the right time, and he also was just played very aware, got the ball out, scored a touchdown. 2 picks, a forced fumble, and then another fumble recovery and a touchdown on a different play. So he kind of just was a game wrecker in this one, and also was spying Caleb Williams and had a few clean tackles on him. So that was great from those 2 guys.
Yeah, that's what I remember noticing. That's number 0, right?
Yeah.
He was all over the place. Yeah, that was a huge game for him and a huge game for the Notre Dame D. I got 2 players of the week here. Mine on offense is Alec Iomanner, the Stanford wide receiver, and the 46-43 win over Colorado. He had 13 catches for 294 yards and 3 touchdowns. Just an insane game. He went off and basically stole the game from Colorado. And he did a lot of that on Travis Hunter, and I think you were talking about that earlier this week, how Travis, they got to figure out the right time to play Travis. He shouldn't be playing both ways that much. And
it's just unrealistic to ask a guy that young, especially.
And to expect him to play at the high level the whole time.
Expect him to play at the highest level of football.
Yes.
Both ways the whole time.
Yes, consistently. There's times to get him in. And I think it's just more of, I think he should play the important situations on both sides.
Yeah, you could ask him to play.
And then at that point, he's going to play a lot of plays, and he won't get tired, and he can be at a high level the whole time he's in.
If you want to ask him to play every single play on both sides, you can't get mad at him for making a couple mistakes.
Exactly, yeah, you can't. It's not.
And games like this are going to happen.
Yep.
Because if you look at the stats on the other side, he had a great game as a receiver.
Did he?
He had 13 catches. This is not, I don't know 100%, but I think he had 13 catches around the 150-yard range and then 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, see, so everyone, all they're talking about is how bad he played on defense, but he had a huge game on offense.
Yeah, exactly. If they just would have played him on offense, he doesn't get any hate.
Yep.
And he probably would have had an even bigger game on offense.
Yep,
so
literally.
Maybe that was his role. Maybe they put in that 5-star freshman, Cormani McLean, instead of him for a few of those defensive plays.
Yep.
Just to get him out because he's gassed.
They got to figure out a better way to use him right now. On defense, then, my player of the week from Bowling Green, Devon Ferguson, 2 interceptions, 2 pass breakups, a couple tackles this week, and BG got another win. They're 3-4 this week, so 2 picks is always a big game, and he was rated the highest defensive player on Pro Football Focus this week, so that's why I decided to give a little shout out to him. And I think, is that all we got for this week? I think that's all we got for this week. That was a good episode, and it was another exciting week of college football. There were a lot of games that were noteworthy and a lot of shifts in the rankings again. We saw Notre Dame pretty much expose USC. We're still seeing Georgia and that team up north dominate for most people. Oklahoma's still up there. Ohio State's playing well. This next week we got a couple fun ones, but the big one, Ohio State and Penn State, and it's in Columbus at noon. We get Gus and Joel again on Fox, so we'll see what we got later this week for you. But for now, we thank you guys for joining us again, and we will see you guys next time.